Hey Nico, something I wanted to point out that I noticed is this is a downside of Wix. Wix is a really poor developer. This is one of the reasons why, I prefer WordPress. When you design something, it's responsive in all platforms. This up here, I don't know what kind of device you're editing on, but if you're editing on a desktop, especially, I have this wide screen. As you can see, the site looks far apart, and Wix has this bizarre method of using columns. You can see this line right here and this line right here. Anything that's not inside that line um, will actually not be on the screen, even though it shows up on your widescreen monitor in your computer. For anybody using a tablet or a phone, that actually won't be on the screen. It hangs off the screen. So you have to go through and click until you see this manage columns, this little dotted line here, anything that's hanging over. It's even dangerous to leave things so close because on a screen like I have the Samsung S24 and it has a rounded screen size, so those words are kind of hanging off. A lot of times I'll choose this or choose this and then go over here, use the center function. It's just easier. Again, I plan to get away from Wix, but for now, um, the reason I'm saying this is important is what you'll see here is when we switch to mobile, you actually have to design the entire site all over again. It, as you can see here, no one can read that word on that button, even though it's readable on a computer. Again, this is something, I don't know how much web design you do. I use the REM function or the EM function for sizes. Wix doesn't allow for this. They do everything by pixels, which is a terrible system. So I generally go in here and just manually make it work. It's unfortunate, but that's kind of how this has to go. So if you wouldn't mind going through page by page and then just kind of viewing it in this mobile section, as you can see, everything it's honestly just kind of a difficult thing because it's just not a good looking platform. When you see it on a phone, a lot of this is just really, no one can read any of these things and the images don't show up correctly. But enough complaining. Really, if you could just go through and look for things like this here is actually a column, which if we were to look at layers, these are sections, and only again in Wix, everything else in the world is top to bottom instead of bottom to top, but this is actually in reverse. So when we click on this, we're actually moving up. And nothing has names. It's really a bizarre system. So everything has to be done manually like this just to make it. And there's an option to hide things, but unfortunately I've found if you do that, it'll hide something that you don't know. It may get rid of entire words or sections. So I think it's a lot safer just to intentionally either move that to 0 with your keyboard or just make it disappear. This text box here, you can see they're overlapping, most likely just because and you can't edit the text in here, so you have to save your work and then go back to desktop and find out what it was, like in this section here. It's because there's probably extra spaces a lot of times, or it's just too big. So a lot of times I'll shrink it and just choose that element and center it. It's all seems like a lot of work, honestly, when you should just be able to choose how things are going to be. But on a phone, it just has a really bad look to it, to be honest, because it's off the screen. I noticed in this section that you build, it looks nice here, it looks nice on a screen, but the minute you open it on a mobile device, all this stuff, it's really far apart and it's really big. And so what I'll do is just change some of the sizes of these things. I do like the graphics you used, and I like the layout. It looks nice. I appreciate that. But if you could just go through and try to make these smaller, because what happens on a mobile phone is it causes people to have to scroll for a very long time, and because of that, uh, people tend to just move off of the site or, get bored. It looks good here, but honestly, you just have to check out the mobile, or if you happen to have a mobile device, open the site. I actually use a plugin here. Um, so if I were to open Express Med Spa, you can use this here, uh, and you can pick any device, you can pick any of these phones, and you can see what this will look like on every single phone. Um, this is a pretty useful plugin if you're going to do much editing, because now you can see what the site looks like. As you see, that looks nice until you hover over it, then those words are far too large. Um, you can see all this space here and all this space, and these words kind of blend. And here's your section. As nice as it looks, you can see this is a lot of space for somebody to have to keep scrolling, keep scrolling. So a lot of times I just move things a lot tighter just for the mobile version. I'll look up the name of this plugin. There's a free version you could use, but pretty much, just being able to make sure it works on an iPhone and make sure it works on a Samsung is 99%. I believe 90% of this website traffic, because it's women, is all iPhones. So honestly, as long as it looks good on an iPhone, it works. So again, back to the editor, you could just go into this section here and shrink things down, these invisible sections. Okay, if you wouldn't mind maybe just going through, page by page and look for problems like that, because I have a feeling like, let's see, chemical peels you just did the other day, and the page looks wonderful until you open the mobile version. Um, and again, it might even look good in here on Wix, and then a lot of times when I go to use the website on a phone, you can see like the heading is so big that it takes up more than an entire screen, which, people, that's weird to read. You have to read one word at a time. So I would go back to Wix and I would take this font down as far as you have to make it look. I think that's a lot more of a acceptable size. And honestly, people want to see pictures more than they want to see a lot of words. It's crazy that you have to do this all manually, but that's just the way Wix is. Um, and again, this button looks good, but a lot of these buttons a lot of times have this function for hover, which is what happens when you hover over it. And as you can see, that's way off the screen. So you would just want to take the size down so that it's viewable. And again, so once you publish it, you take a look at it on a mobile version, and you can see now that's a lot better. That's something people can read. It's all in one screen. So if you wouldn't mind going through page by page and performing these tasks, I'd appreciate it.